Welcome to the Emerging Pearl Show. I am Eliza Boné, creator and host of the show. As a wellness advocate and lifestyle mentor, I am passionate about inspiring women to discover and reveal the pearl within by teaching them to embrace a life defined by love, passion, healing, and serenity. However, as we get older, there are often challenging obstacles that can affect the quality of our lives. Today's guest is Joan Lubar, author of Rock and Roll at Any Age, a certified nutrition advisor and a wellness educator. Joan is an energetic and fun-filled senior who helps women become as healthy and vibrant as possible through her consulting programs, workshops, and speaking engagements. She will share how you can take individual responsibility for your health, plus offer practical solutions to make each day a vibrant and joyful one. Welcome, Joan.
I've been waiting to work with you and do this. This is so much fun.
Well, I'm so thankful that you said yes to my invitation and that you're here today. And you know, I was remembering when we met, and I was so inspired by you because you were so energetic and so positive, so full of life. And I thought, I want to be like her when I get older.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And I know today we're going to be talking about how we can age not only gracefully, but in a way that we can live a life to its fullest, even when we're older. There are no limits as to what we can actually experience. And I want to learn how you've accomplished this. Have you always been this vivacious?
Well, thank you. Maybe as a young person I might have been that way, but I went through a period of time where I had some surgery and I just couldn't get my energy back. And I was 40 at the time, and I also knew that I had this thyroid problem, but it hadn't been diagnosed properly. It had been diagnosed when I was around 15, but then over the next 10 or 20 years, I kept coming out as low normal. And I knew that wasn't right because I was having trouble with my weight, and then after the surgery, I was tired and falling asleep at work. So I really needed to find something that was going to change my life. And that's really part of my journey because there's 3 aspects to it as I moved along. The first one had to do with my physical health. I learned some new nutritional things and really made major changes. And then I got introduced to a couple who taught me about attitude and how to change my perspective on life. And then I started dancing, and I discovered that movement was just the best thing in the world for me, even though I hated going to the gym, and we'll talk about that, I know, later. But I fell in love with dancing because it not only made me feel great, also allowed me to release all the stress from a very difficult job and 2 kids, including one who was hyperactive, or ADHD, they call it today.
It sounds like you had your hands full. It's really difficult when you have a job and children and you have those health problems that can be so limiting. What was your turning point?
Well, actually, it happened when I went back to the physician who had done the surgery. And I said, oh, I'm tired. I'm falling asleep at work. I've got to do something. I still have kids to take care of. And my boss isn't real happy. So what can I do? And he looked me straight in the eye and he said, well, you're over 40. So obviously you're going to be more tired. You're going to probably gain weight. You've had a hysterectomy. All of that gears toward that. And I looked at him and I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding? There is no way. So I walked out of the doctor's office with steam coming out of both ears. I was so mad. But you know, today I really have to thank him because what he did was trigger my taking responsibility for my own health.
Exactly.
And it just changed everything.
And when he said that, you realized there's no way I'm giving up on myself.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
I've experienced that, where I actually had a very similar turning point, where I went to the doctor and basically they just said, sorry, that's just the way life goes. There's not much we can do. You just have to accept it. And I refused to resign myself to living that
Exactly.
way. So I understand the importance of taking charge of your health, taking control, and then taking steps towards making modifications.
Totally, totally. And the first step, of course, was my attitude. Once that triggered that I was going to take responsibility for my health, then I had to really go about getting ready to do that. And I didn't know what to do. So I started looking, and there was very little research on nutrition. And the woman I drove to work with said, gee, my neighbor knows a lot about nutrition. Why don't you talk to her? So I did, and that really was the next step.
So I find that really interesting because on my wellness journey, it was the mental that I didn't realize was blocking me all those years, because I actually started taking steps in my 40s as well. But all those limiting beliefs, and then realizing that if I didn't change my attitude and my way of seeing things, that I was never going to get to the next level where I actually took responsibility for my health and took action. So tell me more about how we can maybe analyze, do an assessment of our own emotional and mental state.
Actually, part of my book is about how to assess yourself. And the first thing I do is ask them to take an assessment of where they're at today. How do they feel about life? Now, most of us can feel like the cup is half full or half empty. And if it's half empty and you're feeling really lousy because you have a bad attitude and everything you think about is all the negatives in your life, then right there you have to stop yourself. And what I do after that is I say, okay, I want you to write down all of the things and the people that are really bothering you. And you make a list. And then I have you go back and look at each person or each thing and say, what have I gained from that? What's the positive? Why am I grateful to that person? And it is amazing how the people that have been the worst in our lives, the things that have blocked us, all of a sudden, when we look at that from a different perspective, we can move forward in a whole different way and be very thankful. To give you just an example, well, the doctor is the perfect example. I mean, I was so angry and so upset by what he said that it caused me to take action, which I may never have done. So that just kind of gives you a beginning. Then, once you've done that, I ask people to write down 100 gratitudes, 100 things they are grateful for. It could be this morning the sun came out and it's a beautiful day. But it can be all these little things that we never think about, or the friends we're grateful for, the support system we have. Whether you're male or female, when you're young, you're always hearing things like, no, don't do that, stop doing that. And then for many of us, and I know it was true for me, that's ridiculous. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Well, all of those little messages are all, I guess, what's the word?
Subconsciously, subliminally.
Yes, but they're packed into the subconscious. And they're packed into the subconscious as truth.
Right.
So even if they're not true.
Yeah, those messages, when we get them, especially as children, they are so ingrained in our subconscious, they become truth.
Right.
We believe them, and they block us. And that can also affect how we view ourselves whether we feel healthy or unhealthy, if we've always been told, oh, you have health problems, you have health issues, you can't do this because maybe you have asthma, limitations that are around us growing up, we believe them and
Totally.
then have a difficult time moving past them as adults. And I know that was true for me in so many cases.
It was also true for me. And one of the things I love are some of the little techniques, my attitude toolkit, so to speak. And one of the tricks I use with that, and I did it a long time ago when I had met someone and it didn't work out. We dated for a few weeks and it just didn't work out. And I was devastated. And I kept thinking about this guy. So what I did was he would come up every 5 minutes at least, right? So what I did was I would picture him and then I'd shrink him down into like a little bobblehead, and I'd imagine him going on the shelf in my garage. There were a lot of those on there for the first couple days. And then gradually just time when, I stopped thinking about him so much. So that was one way to change an attitude. But another way, because we know that our subconscious is housing all of these supposed truths, by saying to ourselves when something comes up and we're going, oh, I can't do that, to immediately say to ourselves, wait, that was true before. It's no longer true. Today, I can really do such and such and such and such. And I'm working my way toward being the best at that. So you're really telling your subconscious that there's a change.
Right.
And when your subconscious realizes there's this change, it actually has this system, and it's proven scientifically, that sends out this little message that draws in the making that happen. So if you think you're a really bad person, it's going to send out the message, oh, let's look for all the things that will make her feel like a bad person.
That will prove that
yes,
she is.
we have to prove that every single day.
But the reverse is true.
And the reverse is true.
Yeah.
So now you want to tell your subconscious, hey, that's no longer true. We can do this now. This is true now.
And so some of these different techniques can apply when we are seeking ways to be healthy.
Yes.
Telling ourselves, maybe we love vegetables, or exercise is so much fun, and maybe shifting our beliefs around some things that could actually allow us to get on the path of wellness.
That's true, but I also believe in the philosophy that for every emotional action, there is a physical reaction. And that can be as simple as blushing when you're embarrassed.
True.
But it also can be as major as an autoimmune disease or or cancer for whatever has happened in your life. It can happen because of trauma, and you haven't been able to deal with that trauma and been able to rebuild and repair your body that has gone through that. I believe that's partly what happened to me in terms of having the surgery. Having surgery is trauma on your body. And I didn't do anything to rebuild, and repair. Nobody told me about that. But once I learned that I was nutritionally deficient, it changed everything. And actually, when I started on a nutritional supplement program, and I wasn't doing anything else different, really, within 2 weeks, all of a sudden my metabolism changed. And I was able to lose weight. I was able to feel better and not fall asleep at work. And it kept my attitude a lot brighter as well.
That is absolutely true. I agree with you 100%, because I had a similar experience where when I started taking certain supplements, everything changed for me. Everything shifted.
I totally believe that.
There was this one point in my life where I thought I had dementia. My memory was so bad. I had a lot of different health conditions that were inhibiting me from living the life I knew I could have. And so when I went to the doctor and started telling them, I'm getting lost a mile from my house, and this is beyond losing my keys. This is scary. And the doctor basically said, it's because of your condition. There's restricted blood flow and circulation going to the brain. And I said, okay, great, we know what it is, let's fix it. And the doctor said, well, you can't really fix it. You just have to accept this is the way it's going to be. And I thought, no, absolutely not. And so upon learning that I could take certain things to help me nutritionally, once I got on that regimen, within a month,
Yes.
my brain was back, my memory was back, my energy, my mood. I started feeling my hormones recalibrating. So many different aspects of my health were so much more improved just because of that one little change I made. And so it's so true that your body can repair itself if you give it the tools it needs to do so.
I believe that, we're made up of trillions of cells.
Yes.
And those cells are dying and rebuilding every single day. But the only thing that builds healthy cells are the proper nutrients. So if you have a damaged cell and it keeps replicating and keeps rebuilding at in the same capacity, you're not going to have any changes. But if you rebuild through good nutrition, and that includes the foods as well, the choices that we make, but it also really, for when you're not well, it really means you need some extra nutrients. And when you add the extra nutrients, your body goes, yay!
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, And it gets rid of the junk and rebuilds with the quality.
So you've touched on the mental and emotional aspect that we need to be aware of. And then we're talking about nutrition, but there's some other physical things
Yes.
we have to consider in order to take steps towards being and feeling healthier, no matter what age we are.
Right.
What are some of those others?
Well, the main one is movement. And I don't know about you, but I hate going to the gym. So every single person really, really needs some kind of movement in their life. And that's why I call it movement instead of exercise. But I want you to think about all the things that movement actually does for you. Whether it lowers your blood pressure, gets your circulation going, helps you with depression. And I have 2 pages of some of the reasons why you need to move. But what if you don't like to? Or what if you're very overweight and you have a real hard time doing it? So let's start first with if you don't like to exercise. I ask most people if they love music. And there are not too many people that don't like music.
Right.
So I recommend a couple different things. First thing is turn the music on. And the next thing is get up and move to it. Now, if you can't move a lot, it doesn't matter. Start slowly and just step, 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 step.
Some sway.
Yes, a little swaying.
Little snapping
yes.
of the fingers.
Right. And then listen to something a little with more upbeat and start moving more. And I went to a yoga class or retreat in Sedona. And the yoga instructor, the first thing she did was put on the music. And she had us up and we were moving, we were grooving. That's why I call my book rock and roll at any age.
You love to
Because
move.
I love rock and roll music and I love to move. And I used to actually teach dance. And she said, if you do 4 pieces of music, 4 songs a day, that would be a great start and almost all you need to stay healthy.
Wow.
How easy is that?
Making it fun
Yes.
and enjoyable.
And the other thing I do is I have 3 one-minute exercises that I also learned at the same retreat. And I just take my smartphone, I set it for a minute, get down on the floor, and the first thing is push-ups. Now, there are 3 different levels of push-ups, so you don't have to start with this one,
The
full
hardest one.
body.
Right.
Although I'm getting better at that.
You can modify it.
Right. You can modify it. And if you really have done very little exercise, you do it against the wall. and you just lean against the wall,
Or against your kitchen counter.
against the counter. That works just as well. Standing up.
Right.
So it's a lot easier. And do it for 1 minute. Then the next thing is squats. And you can do it anywhere with squats. As long as you stand up, stick out your butt. When you go down, come back up straight, and just keep doing it for a minute. Now, you can also be doing that when you're brushing your teeth. When you're
between
putting on your
commercials.
skin. I mean, multitasking.
Right.
Right, watching commercials. And you do that for a minute. And then the last one are crunches. And you lay down, and you put your hands behind your head and just move as far forward as you can, slowly, fast, whatever you can do. And you'll find, especially if you track it, that you will start building it up. If you do it for 30 days, you'll find that you went from 9 push-ups to 20 push-ups. I mean, it's just amazing
You'll
if
get
you
stronger.
just do it. Yes.
And anybody can do anything for 1 minute.
Right.
Yeah. I know for me, it's walking. I love to walk, but
That's one of the
I have
other
to
things.
be in nature. And I go to a nature park in the area, and it's been so beneficial, not only for my health, but for my mental state, for my mental outlook, because you also incorporate the gratitude of all the beauty you're seeing.
Yes.
And you're getting the movement, you're getting the fresh air, and you're actually doing something that is exercise or movement, as you call it, but it's so enjoyable that it just becomes a part of your life.
Another thing I understand is if you take your shoes and socks off and you get out in the grass barefoot, you're into the electromagnetic field of the earth, and it really makes a difference too. And it's like a healing for
Oh.
doing that.
There are so many simple things we can do
Yes.
to improve our overall health. And I think what happens, and what I've seen from personal experience, that people get to a certain stage in their life and maybe give up.
Little by little, you start with 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Then if you can walk outside, you walk a half a block and come back.
Right.
You know, and you just do it incrementally. It doesn't have to be stressful. Yes.
Finding little tricks and
Yes.
shortcuts that are going to help us stay healthier longer into our lives. So what would you say to just someone? I know that you are addressing women that are particularly in their golden years. What would you say to them as far as where should they begin?
Well, I always feel like to begin with, you have to understand where you're at. What do you want to change? And then you have to look at what you can't change. And know that even if you can't change things outside of you, it's how you react to them. And if you can react to them in a whole different way, that lifts your spirit. So now you've got your food and your supplements. You also have your attitude that you're starting to work on. And now get up and move. And
Just do
find
it.
what you love. Also, have a support group. Have a group of friends that maybe go walking with you. And be careful who you are friends with, because there's a lot of people out there, and especially I've noticed it with people as they age. All they do is talk about how ill they are, all their complaints, nothing's good. You don't need those people. You need to find people that are uplifting, that really want you to feel better, want you to be in a great place. They want to be in a great place. And they talk about a much higher level of consciousness, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's important, because I've noticed when I'm around negative people, it's a toxic environment.
It is.
And you can't help but get pulled into that negativity. And so surrounding yourself with positivity it makes a world of difference. And I think that is a very sage piece of advice.
Thank you.
I know you're also known as the sassy sage.
I try and be a little bit sassy.
Now, before we close, I wanted to touch on something that I find very inspiring. I know you recently published your first book, and actually you have it here, Rock and Roll at Any Age. And I want to congratulate you because if you think about it, so many people dream of publishing their own book.
Yes.
They think about it and it's on their wish list. And here you are in your golden years and you just published a book. So it's never too late.
Absolutely.
And it just takes a matter of doing what to get your goals accomplished, because that can be so empowering.
I had this idea for, gosh, probably 6-7 years. And the reason I wrote the book is that people kept saying, you can't be your age. And finally I thought, well, I really know what it took for me to get where I am and to feel great. I like to say fit and fabulous. But I was writing things down and saving them on my computer. However, I wasn't really putting it all together. So a friend of mine is a marketing person. And finally she said to me, I've known you for 2 years and you've talked about that book. I want to see you get it done. So every week we are going to talk and you are going to finish something, whether it's a chapter or whatever it is. But it was really the help of my friend kicking me in the you know where, and
she held you accountable.
She held me accountable. And so for people that are really trying to write a book, find somebody who can support you, who will encourage you, who will give you that little extra push and make you accountable.
And that method could actually work for so many things.
And everything.
If we want to exercise more, find a partner, a buddy to exercise with,
Yes.
or at least someone that will check in and see how you're doing, see how you're progressing. So thank you once again for all of these great suggestions and for helping us live a life that's more vibrant and healthier and full of vitality.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in today. Remember that age is only a number, and whether you're 30 or 70, a healthy, vibrant, fulfilling life is within your grasp. The key is to take action. Small, consistent, incremental steps towards achieving your goal is all it takes. I hope you have found some golden nuggets in today's segment that will inspire you to embrace a life of love, passion, healing, and serenity. To learn more about my guest or for additional resources for your wellness journey, please email me at theemergingpearlshow@gmail.com. I also invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Emerging Pearl, to see prior episodes of this show. Until next time, and remember to reveal the pearl within you.